Hi, I'm Valentina. I am the writer and recipe developer behind Carrots and Calabacitas, which is my first cookbook. It is a cookbook focusing on health and wellness while remixing classic Mexican American dishes. I have been on my weight loss journey for about 4 years and I've lost over 130 pounds. So I have done all that through eating really good food and meal prepping, which today I'm going to show you one of my favorite meal preps to do. So to go in, people always ask me, you must have so much time. How do you do all this? How do you figure this out? Or your recipes look so complicated. I can't do that. And when I tell them sometimes it only takes me 15, 20 minutes to put together, they don't believe me, right? And much like all of you, today was a day where I was busy. I really didn't want to cook today, right? Like it's so much easier to just go out or eat or have somebody else do it or buy everything all together. But there's something about making your own food that really helps you connect to what you're eating and also appreciate all the people that grew your food and also picked your food as well. And I think about that all the time when I'm preparing my food. So let's dig in. So today we're gonna make fish tacos, but in a bowl. So I feel like when I first started my vegan vegetarian journey, I just made everything I liked and just decided it was going to be in a bowl. Somehow in my mind that made it easier. So when we were like, we really want a burger, I'm like, let's make it into a bowl. And we want fish tacos, okay, let's put it into a bowl. So when in doubt, if you don't know what you're doing, just put it in a bowl and somehow it creates this really amazing dish. So for me, when I compose a well-balanced bowl, it needs to have 5 components. So the first component is a hearty base, and that could be quinoa, any type of grains, beans, things like that. The second component, it needs to have greens, a lot of greens, bright vegetables, things like that. Number 3, a protein. Today we're using salmon. You could use any other lean protein of your choice. You could use tofu, tempeh. If chicken's your thing, feel free. Not my thing, but that's cool. Number 4 is a healthy fat. So today I'll be using avocado as one of my toppings. And also I made a chipotle crema that I use with cashews. So the nut base is also part of that healthy fat family. And then number 5 is the aromatics and all things crunchy. So that to me is the most important part. Not the most important, but I think it's the thing that really gets me the most excited, because you can have all these components, but if it doesn't smell good when you pick it up, or if you don't have that little crunchy top or something else that's gonna make you be like, I need to eat it while I'm walking to the table with my bowl, then you're doing something wrong. So when in doubt, have those 5 things. So we're making fish taco bowls, and I'm doing that with salmon. So the ingredients that you will need are salmon. I like to use wild caught. Today I'm using a frozen one, that's frozen fillets that I just defrosted. So it doesn't have to be butcher style, get a huge thing and intimidate yourself. It can really be as simple as finding a good frozen piece and working with that. And then we're gonna be using some kale. This is about 4 cups of kale. We're gonna use some purple cabbage. I used a lot of limes, but here's just one. And then we're gonna be making a mango salsa as well as some quinoa. And the spices I'm gonna use today is, so we all know, right, we canceled Goya, so I found this really awesome organic sazon from Luisa, and I really, really like this, so I highly recommend using this. And for the fish, I'm just doing salt and pepper, and then I'm doing cumin and chipotle. And in my mango salsa, I just do a little bit of my not so secret ingredient, tahini. I use a low sodium blend just because I think that anything that's coming with preservatives is loaded with salt, and you should really watch, especially when you're salting everything else, that it's the extra salt in this is not needed. So that's everything that you're gonna need today. For this bowl, whenever I'm doing something, when I start to figure out how I'm gonna meal prep this meal today is gonna be over for 2 people over the course of 4 days. With that being said, today I'm only gonna cook 4 pieces of salmon, and so midweek I'll cook a new batch of that, but everything else will last over 4 days for 2 people, so a total of 8 servings. So I like to start with the thing that's gonna take me the longest so I can get that out of the way and do everything else before that. So today the longest thing that's gonna take me is to make the quinoa. And I like to do a cup of quinoa with 2 cups of water, and I put it in a pot and let that boil for about 10 to 15 minutes, and you want to wait until that water is completely gone. And then when that water is gone, it's done. So sometimes it's faster. Don't adhere yourself to a certain time. If the water is gone, don't go, well, it's only been 12 minutes. Like, it will burn. So just watch the water and kind of be agile in your kitchen as you're cooking. So I'll get that started first, and then I will, after about 5 minutes, I'll pop my salmon in the oven, and that's only going to take about 10 to 12 minutes at 400. And I'm gonna go do that, and then I'll show you how to prep the other things while those things are going. I got the quinoa going. In about 5 minutes, I'll put in the salmon. I forgot to mention that in my quinoa, once I get it to a simmer, I throw in just a heaping amount of sazon, however you're feeling, and then just mix that up, and that's where the sazon is gonna go today. So next thing we're gonna do is the kale and cabbage slaw, and I will show you a little bit about how I maneuver around kale. So like I said earlier, this is about 4 cups of kale. This seems like a lot, and what we're gonna do today is do a technique called massaging kale, which essentially I'm just gonna pour over some lime juice today, but you could use lemon if you use it in a different recipe. And I'm just gonna massage it in with my hands, and you'll see that this bowl is gonna get smaller and smaller. The contents of the bowl are gonna get smaller and smaller. So what that does is it really helps. Some people complain about the bitterness of kale, or that it's a little too crunchy for their liking. They want it cooked. So to get those raw effects of the benefits of kale, we're just going to massage it down a little bit today with doing that. So I will, again, add in, I think I'm just going to do a whole thing of lime in here. Then I'll add in some purple cabbage that I cut earlier today. And then I think I'm going to be a little froggy and throw in some tahini as well. So I will show you how I do that in just a second. Okay, so here's what I like to do. I like to split up my kale into 2 different bowls, so then I can make sure I get a full mixture of both of those guys in there. And then I'll take my lime. And another trick about lime is sometimes if it's a little too hard, is you can just roll it around and get those juices going. That way you're not fighting with your juice press thing. And also it's a good idea to have sharp knives. Don't be like us right now with some weak knives. So we will get our handy press. And I'm gonna squeeze 1/2 of it on this side, and then I'll squeeze the other half on the other side. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put in a tiny bit of salt on each side. And I think maybe I'll just do a little bit of pepper too. Why not? And then I'm gonna do the tahini. And then now I'm just gonna go in with my hands, clean hands, and just go in like this. And it's literally like you're massaging it. And at the same time, you can kind of rip it apart. I cut it up earlier, but you can just rip it more if you want. And again, this just really kind of helps with the bitterness, but also helps integrate all of that stuff into every part of the kale. So it's not just your amazing lime juice isn't just on top of the kale, that it's all incorporated inside. And I do like to, again, split it up so then every side of it is going to get the same benefits. So, and if it flies around, you know, that's just part of whatever it is. We massage our kale, so now this is what we have left. And now what we're gonna do is add in our purple cabbage and then mix it all up. Okay, so I massaged my kale, and I'm gonna be adding in my purple cabbage or red cabbage and then mixing it all up together. And the awesome thing about kale is that the kale and the cabbage and everything that we're putting in here today is that it is a heaping and awesome, huge supply of vitamins A, K, C, and calcium. And of course, we need all that today. And one thing I didn't mention is that when I started my journey, I used MyFitnessPal as a really good tool to help me better understand what's all in my food, how to track, how to even understand what a well-composed dish is, and just making sure that I was getting all the vitamins and nutrients that I really needed, especially because early on in my journey, I was vegan, and I have transitioned now into mostly pescatarian, vegetarian. And you know, the most famous phrase, like, are you getting enough protein? Are you getting this and that? And before I would just be like, yes, I am. But then really being like, am I? I don't know, right? So that really helped me understand what I was eating and what types of things I was eating. So next we're gonna do the mango salsa. Before that, just so you can see, this is the final look of the kale and purple cabbage slaw. So the mango salsa. So what I like to do is help myself, right, the day before I'm actually gonna prep my meal. So I like to cut up what I'm gonna use to put into something and then have this part of it done. That way when I'm cooking, I'm not like going a little wild with my knife trying to make sure everything's done. Because if you're tracking time, right, I have about 2 to 3 minutes left on my salmon. So I wanna make sure that all of this is done. So then by the time that comes out, I can put the dish together. So today for your mango salsa, you will need 1 mango. You'll need about 1/4 of a red onion, a half a jalapeno, and about a half a red pepper. And then what I'd use is a whole lime and some cilantro as well. And I made this earlier today, so you can see that here. And it smells really amazing. And I also like to throw tahini in this as well. Yeah, I'm a big fan of tahini. One thing that I really love about creating something like this is it doesn't have to be complicated, right? If you don't like mango, put in pineapple. If you don't like a fruity type of pico, then just go back to the traditional tomato, right? It's just an opportunity here to make it what you want. And sometimes when you get this in a restaurant or in a store and you're like, I don't really like onions, well, guess what? When you make it at home, don't put onions in it. Or if you don't like cilantro, don't do that. Over here, we like all the things, so we just throw all the things in it and you can make it as spicy as you want. Okay, so as we wait for our salmon to finish up, it's got a couple, there it is. So I'm gonna give it probably 1 more minute. I just want to show you today, I'm not gonna show this as a full-on recipe, but I did make a dairy-free version of a chipotle crema. I like to make this with cashews, and it's really simple. It's just a cup of cashews, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, a little bit of salt, and 3/4 of a cup of water. And then you just blend it up in a really high-powered blender. And I added in a lot of chipotle. You don't have to, you can kind of go as you please. I do recommend doing that, especially if you're not really into super spicy things. But you can start with just using one of the peppers or just using the sauce if that's your thing too, and then just keep tasting it as you go. But what's really awesome about cashews is you get that same sour cream type of feel, and you get to enjoy all of that chipotle creaminess without having any of the dairy. And I'll be using that to put on top of the fish tacos. Okay, so the salmon is out. It looks really great, smells really great. Like I said earlier, this is gonna last us 2 days, and then in the middle of the week, we will do this again. One thing I will say about that is that I was always intimidated about cooking fish at home. I refused to for a really long time. So don't be afraid. Again, if salmon isn't your thing, try cod, try shrimp, or even chicken or anything else, tofu. You could use the same spices. You can make everything else the same and just switch that out. Okay, so we're just about finished here. Now I'm going to put the bowl all together, and then I'll show you how that looks. We have our salmon done, our quinoa done, all the other components done, and now it's just time to put together the bowl. So here's the bowl I'm gonna use today, and my methodology is always to do half my bowl filled with greens, and then about 1/4 of the grains, and then my protein, and then any of the other stuff on top. And today for my toppings, I'm going to be using some avocado, some lime, some cilantro, a little bit of green onion, and then the chipotle crema that I made earlier today, as well as the mango salsa. So I really hope you enjoyed this fish taco bowl recipe, and if you have any questions, reach out to me on Instagram at Carrots and Calabacitas, both on Facebook and on Instagram. Thank you.